Hi, Nigel. Look, thank you very much for taking part in the Business Spotlight series. I'm going to hand it straight across to you to introduce yourself and what you do.
Okay, thanks very much, Ed, and thanks very much for having me. We work with Action Coach, as you know, and we're the reviews supplier to Action Coach. We need to get you signed up, by the way. What we do is we're just in a nutshell, we're a bit like Trustpilot, but for local businesses. So whenever we onboard a new client to the platform, we'd spend quite a lot of time with them looking at their Google My Business listings, looking at their on-site search engine optimization, and then making it very easy for people to collect reviews. So before I set this business up, I was head of e-commerce at QuickFit, and we tried Trustpilot, FIFO, Bazaar Voice, Reputation.com. None of them moved the needle in terms of sales or profit. And then I asked 40 branch managers to start collecting Google reviews. And we then displayed those reviews on the TVs in the centers that collected them. And what we saw very quickly, in fact, within a period of 3 months, was the revenues in those centers on average increased by 50%. So I went to the CEO and said, look, we're turning over 500 million right now. Would you like to be turning over 750 million within a few weeks? And he said, no, because we don't want to grow that quickly. It would ruin the reputation that we've built up since Tom Farmer messed it all up in the 70s and 80s. And we've made it a really good, clean company to deal with. And that sort of growth would actually harm us. I said, okay, that's fair enough. But I actually think it's a great idea. So that's when I left in 2014 to set Trustist up. We got it wrong for a couple of years. We had a hardware and a software solution, and we ended up being tablet managers for the clients that we did get signed up at that time, just reminding them it has to be plugged in, by the way, otherwise it won't work. And then we moved to a software solution in about 2015, 16. And since then it's snowballed. So we've got 15,000 clients at the moment, most of which are in the UK, but we've got some in Canada, US, and Australia, and a few European clients as well. Got a very small team. There's 8 of us. I'm based in London because I was spending 3 or 4 days a week in London anyway. So when my daughter went off to uni, I moved back to London. I've spent some time here in my 20s as well. And the team is based in York, and we seem to be able to keep acquiring new clients without having to add headcount. So we're becoming more and more profitable, which is a nice place to be. So that in a nutshell is us.
Indeed, it's a great situation to be in. And who are the typical kind of customers? Obviously, you mentioned Action Coach are one of
Yeah.
your customers. Who else are sort of typical customers for you?
So anyone that has a local business. So we've got some big retailers, the biggest of which is Timpson's. So that's Snappy Snaps, Max Spielman, Johnson's The Cleaners, Timpson's, Timpson Locksmith, Jeeves of Belgravia, Columbine, etc. And they've also got some pubs, and they've just bought a place in Morzine for skiing as well. A very progressive retailer, as you probably know. 12% of their employees come from the prison population. And their philosophy when recruiting is to find the right person first and then work out which job they're going to offer them. So if you ever get the chance to read Sir John's book called Upside Down Management, Sir John Timpson, it's a great read because they really do empower their staff. But obviously they're cobblers and key cutters, and they want to reach their local market. So we help them a lot with their Google My Business listings when they started, but then they also take advantage of our tagging system. So they're able to filter out those reviews they get for key cutting, those for shoe repairs, and then they have specialist pages on their website to reflect that. So yeah, that would be our biggest client. But then we've got lots of one-person businesses. And I recently did an analysis of our small, medium, and large businesses, and for us, that's 1 to 10 locations, 11 to 50 locations, and 51 locations plus. And the average small business that we look after is just 2 locations, and that's skewed by quite a large minority at about 7 or 8 locations. So yeah, anything from a one-person scaffolding business or roofing business, and for some reason we do quite well in the cleaning sector. We also seem to do quite well in the funeral sector. So we've got Leverton's as a client. They buried Prince Philip and the Queen, but going back in history, they buried the likes of Churchill, the Queen Mother, and so on. So yeah, I've got a complete mix, and it doesn't really matter what sector people are in. If they want to grow their business using their reviews, then we're a good partner for that.
Fantastic. Always good to get a book recommendation as well. Thank you for that. What was obviously been going for a while, what was the impact of COVID on the business?
Yeah, so I think everyone, including me, buried their heads in the sand for at least a few days when we got that announcement on the 23rd of March, 2020. We could see it coming, obviously. And I did give some people a small discount at the start, but then a lot of our clients, I hate to use the word because it's been overused so much now, but pivoted during the pandemic and adapted their businesses where they could to being online. And a lot of people were able to justify being key workers as well. So the economy, whilst we were in lockdown for 3 months, a lot of our clients weren't really, because they were still going into the office and or depot or whatever and doing the jobs that they do. So once we got over that initial shock, and then I ended up writing a blog article about why you shouldn't stop marketing in the times of a crisis. And there's some good case studies in that article, like Kellogg versus Post in the 20s in the Great Depression. Post decided, no one's ever heard of Post, but Kellogg's and Post used to be the same size organization. And during the Great Depression, they spent much more marketing than they ever had done previously. And now, obviously, 100 years later, Kellogg's really the only player in their market. And it's a result of investing in marketing way back then. And then there's various examples of Toyota in the 70s marketing to the US car market when there was another recession on, and they overnight became, well, not overnight, but in a very short period of time, became the largest importer of cars into the US market as a result of that marketing investment. So we doubled in size through the pandemic and recruited 2 or 3 additional members of staff. So whilst it was tough and we all had to work from home for quite an extended period, we did keep in touch on Zoom and Teams, like most organizations, I think, did. And it did occur to me that people fell one side of the tracks or the other through the pandemic. They either didn't adapt and sadly disappeared, and we all know the big retailers that disappeared in that period, or they adapted and they did very well. And I think those people, there are always case studies of people who start businesses in bad times, and they're always the most resilient businesses going forward. And there's plenty of examples of that too. So very challenging time, and obviously we're moving into a challenging time now with the cost of living crisis, inflation where it's never been for 40 years, a not brilliant government that doesn't seem to be going in any particular direction for too long. Yeah, so we're in uncertain times again, but I think those businesses that spend the time and effort in getting their message out there in a way that people can see them and take advantage of what they're all about. And I don't believe it has to be done on price either. I know price is very important at the moment with the cost of living crisis, but if you're able to provide a superb service which benefits your clients, there's no need to discount, I believe.
No, definitely.
So we haven't had to discount recently, and yeah, our rate of growth is still strong even in these these times, and you see it with a lot of other businesses as well that provide value and continue to grow.
And look, I mean, obviously you mentioned sort of the sort of, I suppose, common market challenges. What are the particular challenges you think for the sector that you're in?
Well, we're in two sectors. So we're in the review business, and then quite by accident, we got into open banking last year, and we have a new product called Trustist Transfer. And my challenge there is actually getting people to use it, because we know it's a great method of moving money around very cost effectively. And yeah, even people like Fiserv, one of the largest card companies in the world, reckon that their revenues are going to fall by 35% by 2025. So that's not long off. That's a year and a bit off. And yeah, the market is going to change, but I'm getting some reluctance from our larger clients to switch to it because they don't want to be first. So that's a challenge, and I'm not quite sure how to overcome that. I think it's a bit of a timing issue. I remember setting up my first internet business in 1999, and we managed to turn over £100,000 on with payments coming in just by bank transfers and checks. And that was before we even had a shopping cart or anything like that. So we were a bit ahead of the curve on that one, and I think we're a bit ahead of the curve on this one as well. So that's a challenge. The reviews business, we're well established in that, and growth is where I want it to be at the moment. So the big challenge for me is the open banking side of our business, and making that accessible, especially to people that have got web businesses. So the e-commerce version of that should be launched in the next few weeks, and we're working hard to make sure that gets delivered within February, really.
Excellent. So yeah, lots happening then, and sort of watch this space for that part of the new product. And what are your aspirations for the next, say, 5 years?
Okay, well, I raised some debt in December, which allowed me to engage some consultants to help me write a new business plan, financial model, and a pitch deck. And we're just this week going to be going out and sending those documents out to interested parties. So I'm looking to raise 1.1 million. And if the financial numbers are to be believed, then within 5 years, we'll have gone from about £1 million turnover to £80 million turnover. So not a bad return for anyone that wants to jump on board with that particular investment. But yeah, that's the big challenge for me for this quarter, really.
Fantastic. And it's definitely exciting time then. And look, I mean, you've obviously been doing this in business for a while, Nigel. What would you say has been your biggest learning as a business owner?
Crikey. I think my biggest failing was a business that went into administration. And that was me putting too much trust in a management team that didn't really know what they were doing, which was partly my fault for recruiting the wrong people. But then timing as well. So that business was valued at 28 million in 2003. And I sold it in 2004 for 2.75 million. So a 90% drop off in valuation. And that's because Amazon had come into the market and was selling below cost. And I think I should have pressed the button a year before that. I wouldn't be sitting here having this interview with you now. I'd be sitting on a Caribbean island with a pina colada in my hand. But yeah, I say so timing, I think, is important. Don't go too soon, don't go too late. But I don't know how you get that one right either.
Oh, very, very interesting. Yeah, no offense taken. I understand that. So look, I mean, I think as a final thing, what would you say is it that inspires you?
I love having my own business. I mean, it's hard work, but it also creates massive freedoms for me. And I have a great life pretty much all the time. So yeah, there's challenges. You get staffing issues, you get clients saying they don't want to pay what you're asking them to pay, but all of these things can normally be sorted out over a cup of coffee or a pint of beer or a glass of wine or something. So yeah, it's not a bad life.
Yeah, excellent. Definitely, but business should definitely give you more in life. So it's great to hear that's going well. Look, thank you very much for taking part. Great to find out more, and look forward to seeing more about the new product, and hopefully the fundraising coming in for that too.
Thanks very much, Ed. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Nigel.